Hello everyone and welcome back to the next installment of our 9.2 raid guides, proudly presented by Coinbase. This is Crazy Puck from Team Liquid, and today we'll show you how to kill the Prototype Pantheon in the heroic Sepulcher of the first ones. This is a 3-stage fight, with the first 2 stages introducing you to the mechanics and stage 3 throwing them all at you. You'll fight prototype versions of the 4 Covenant leaders. These bosses do not have a shared health pool. You'll want to kill the available bosses as evenly as possible. Each boss has a handful of abilities. In stage 1, you'll fight the prototypes of War and Duty. The prototype of War will periodically cast Gloom Bolt, shooting a bolt at a random player, dealing mild damage and putting a large healing absorb on them. This is interruptible. You should try to interrupt every single cast of this, as the healing absorb can be really dangerous at various points. He'll also cast Necrotic Ritual, which summons 4 stationary adds around the edges of the room at the cardinal directions. These channel towards the center of the room, creating a puddle of goop that will grow over time. Standing in that goop deals ticking damage and reduces healing received by 100%. This puddle will keep growing until all of the adds are killed, at which point it just disappears. Start at the northern add, since that's where the bosses start anyway. When the north add dies, have 4 to 6 people go east and everybody else go west. Blast the adds and meet up in the south, bringing down the last one. A quick but important note on Necrotic Ritual. If you push one of the bosses to 50% and force the next stage while the ritual is going on, the ritual will simply despawn, meaning you don't actually have to kill that set. So, if you are close to pushing and ritual comes out, just hard nuke the bosses. This will be closely followed by an ability called Windswept Wings. Duty will fly into the air and create a heavy wind, pushing everybody back and dealing mild damage to the raid for 12 seconds. During this time, it'll also throw swirlies on the ground. Being hit by it will have you hit by a spear, pinning you to the ground and dealing ticking damage. The spear actually needs to be attacked and destroyed by the raid, so this is actually pretty bad and you really don't want to get hit by this. Windswept Wings and the Necrotic Ritual will alternate, so they're basically cast one after each other with a small delay. Both War and Duty have a couple of other abilities. Duty will periodically cast Humbling Strike, a tank smack. This deals heavy physical damage and causes some splash damage to the raid. It'll also debuff the tank, causing them to take 100% increased damage from Humbling Strikes for 40 seconds. Tanks will just need to swap for this. War's last ability is Runecarver's Death Touch, which will put a 30-second dot on 2 players. When this is removed, it'll explode on the raid and deal 112,000 damage to everybody, and then jump to a new target. Look at your health pool. It's less than 112k, isn't it? Sounds like that's going to be a problem. Fortunately, Duty gives you a way to deal with these. It'll periodically summon 2 Kyrians to fall to the ground and create a bubble. Standing inside that bubble will reduce your damage and healing by 100%, but it also reduces the damage you take from Runecarver's Death Touch explosions by 100% and prevents it from jumping to another player. So, what you'll want to do is have the debuff players each run into their own bubble, call for a Dispel, get the debuff removed, and then run back out. When the debuff is removed inside the bubble will also despawn. Your raid leader or healing leader should call which healer to dispel who, so you don't accidentally overlap. When either Duty or War reaches 50% health, they'll both fly away and you'll enter stage 2. You'll want to bring them down as evenly as possible. When stage 2 begins, you'll be fighting the prototypes of Renewal and Absolution. Renewal will do 2 environmental abilities. Stampede summons a literal stampede of soul-shaped forms to run across the room in a line. Touching one of these will deal moderate damage and knock you back, so don't touch them. These are really more annoying than anything. Anima Storm creates anima tornadoes that will move around the room. Touching a tornado does moderate damage and silences you while you stand inside of it. Renewal will also frequently cast Anima Bolt, which deals damage and applies a dot that can be interrupted. Renewal's last ability is the most impactful, Withering Seeds. Several seeds will appear around the room, with their health passively ticking down over time. If a seed dies, it'll explode, dealing moderate damage to the raid and applying a stacking dot. Fortunately, the seeds can actually be healed by your raid. If they're healed to full, it'll explode instead in a healing burst, healing the entire raid and increasing all player healing dealt by 25% for 30 seconds, stacking. You'll want all your healers to focus on one seed quickly. Have your raid leader or healing leader call out which. Once that one's healed to full, you'll want to have one healer primarily focus on healing the seeds one by one, with everybody else just taking care of the raid. Call for help as necessary when your seed is close to full. Healing that second seed to full will both apply a new stack of the buff and refresh the duration. These healing buffs will help you dramatically in being able to keep the raid stable, as there's a lot of raid-wide damage this stage caused by the other boss, their prototype of Absolution. Absolution will apply one stack of Burden of Sin to the raid, dealing moderate ticking damage the rest of the fight. This is fairly potent, and this stage requires much more healing than stage 1. That's why those seeds are so important. Absolution will also cast Racking Pain, which works just like it did for the Denathrius fight. It's a frontal cone that deals mild damage and increases your damage taken by 25% for 40 seconds to anybody hit, stacking. Hand of Destruction also works just like Denathrius, creating an image of the boss and gripping you into it, and then exploding a short time afterwards. You'll have to run away from the explosion, or you'll die. Hand of Destruction is always followed immediately by Sinful Projection. This is essentially Season 1's Mythic Affix, shooting 4 bolts out from most of the players in the raid across the room. Do not get hit by these, as it'll deal damage, stun you, and give you another stack of Burden of Sin, which is very much like a death sentence. You'll want to spread out from the Hand of Destruction as quickly as possible. Use a Windrush Totem or a Roar if you can, get spread out around the room, and focus on not eating those red orbs. Like before, when either boss reaches 50%, the stage ends. You'll now enter stage 3, and the first 2 bosses will reappear. Now, you get to fight all 4 of them, and deal with all of the abilities overlapping. This can get really hectic, but it really boils down to not standing in bad things, don't get hit by bad things, heal up the seeds, and get Runecarver's Death Touch dispelled inside the bubbles. When a boss dies, it'll begin a 20-second cast. If this completes, it'll heal to 100% health. As such, you need to kill all of the bosses within 20 seconds of the first one dying. Make sure to bring them down as evenly as possible, with your raid leader actively calling out any swaps as needed. Couple notes for stage 3. First, you should bloodlust immediately upon entering stage 3 as soon as you can get the ads together. Early on in the stage, you'll get a fresh set of seeds. Your healers will want to bomb heal into one of them to get the buff up as quickly as possible. You'll get a wind at about 40 seconds into the stage, so watch your feet and make sure you do not get hit by the swirlies. You may want a CD here like an Aura Mastery, something mobile, just to help keep everyone stable. Keep the bosses on top of each other during this, so the raid can still continue cleaving them. You'll likely want an assigned interrupt rotation in this stage on War because of the Gloom Bolts. With so much going on here, someone having a large absorb shield on them can very easily result in their death. At 1 minute and 30 seconds into stage 3, you'll get a Hand of Destruction. Watch your feet spread out and then don't eat the red orbs afterwards. At 2 minutes into stage 3, you'll get a Necrotic Ritual. Your goal is to beat this. Keep the bosses stacked as much as possible for the duration of stage 3. AoE nuke them hard, and bring them down before you die to the Necrotic Ritual. If you enjoyed this guide, remember to like it and make sure you're subscribed to the channel to catch all of our previews, guides, kill videos, and more. A big thank you to Coinbase for making guides like these possible. From everyone here at Team Liquid, have a great day, and we'll see you for the next video.